welcome back to Mondays with Mom, the podcast where my mom, Leah,
Hi.
and I, Jo, dive into her stories, experiences, and the lessons she's hoping I finally take to heart. My mom has always joked that her life should be a book or a movie, and honestly, she might be right. I've spent my whole life hearing these stories, and I think they're too good to keep to ourselves, so we're sharing them with you, one episode at a time. Right, Mom?
Right, Joey. Thanks for that.
So, Mom, what's the story this week?
Well, Joe, George and I were out last night with our cousins, John and Julia. Shout out to John and Julia.
Shout out.
We went out for dinner and had really a lovely evening, and I was reminded again at how special these two human beings are and how surprising it is that they still like hanging around me.
Why'd you say that?
Well, it's a bit of a long story, and I'll explain. Firstly, John and Julia are cousins that I've inherited. And I'm really glad that I did inherit these awesome human beings. John is my husband George's first cousin, and Julia is his wife. And these two individuals are people that have actually stood by me in some of life's really tough moments. But that's not what I'm going to talk about this episode. I'm going to talk about how I enriched their life. Now, I'm going to start off with some background that may seem irrelevant, but it's actually really, really relevant.
I think that's a common trend with a lot of our episodes, Mom.
Are you criticizing me or politely expressing that you feel that my ADD is going too far?
I would never insinuate such.
Okay, that sounds good. Then I can continue. And since I am coming clean and telling everyone clearly that I definitely have ADD or attention deficit disorder, one of the issues that comes with it, especially for me, is something known as time blindness.
I think it runs in the family.
It definitely runs in the family, and I'm putting it out there, guys, that if I'm ever late, or as I usually am late for anything that I've said I'm coming to, it's purely because of my time blindness and not because of anything else. It means for me that I assume things are going to get done faster than they do, and it takes me a lot longer to get ready usually and to arrive
On time.
Thank you, Joe. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person that's experienced this. You know you need to go out somewhere, you've planned the outfit, you know exactly what it's going to look like, and you're running around, it's last minute, you grab the clothes that you've planned and you look at them and they look really, really creased. And so this has happened to me on many occasions.
Me too.
And so I know there are lots of people that'll say, who cares? I'll be a bit creased. I don't like being creased. So I had made a plan because this was happening to me frequently. And although I did have Toko, God bless her soul, shout out to Toko, who was ironing my clothes for me, I think the way I was packing them in my cupboard and after a while things push up against each other, I often needed to touch up on something. And so I had gone out because I love technological things and I love gadgets. I had gone out and bought myself this really nifty little clothes steamer. It was one of these really cute handheld little devices. It looked like a miniature kettle with this spout that would come out for you to be able to steam your clothes. And I used this frequently, especially on the times that I was running around. Now, I was really blessed in South Africa. We had a beautiful home and I had the most amazing dressing room. It was huge. I had cupboards floor to ceiling, and all the cupboard doors were made out of this very dark black mahogany wood. And in between the cupboards, there was a dressing table that was built in that had a shelf as well and little spaces for plugs.
It was basically everyone's dream dressing room.
It was a really, really awesome dressing room. And I remember the one day I was running around trying to get ready, used my little steamer, had it plugged in, and instead of putting it down on the floor, for some reason, I left it on the dressing table. Went to my function, had a good time that evening, came back, no problem. The following morning, as I started packing away my clothes and tidying up, I lifted up the steamer, and oh my word. Obviously, some condensation had taken place. I left it really hot, sitting on my dressing table, and as I removed it, there was this big white ring.
Oh no.
which was extremely obvious on this very dark mahogany dressing table. My very first thought was, George mustn't see this.
Like, oh no, he's going to kill you.
He's going to either kill me or have a nervous breakdown that I have destroyed this awesome dressing room he's created for me. So I did what any person would do at the time, Googled. There wasn't AI, and so I just Googled how to get rid of the stain. Before I Googled, I suspect I did try wipe it and used things like a bit of dishwashing liquid, mild detergent. It did nothing. My Googling took me firstly to petroleum jelly. So I had some Vaseline. I smeared this thing with Vaseline, hadn't told anyone yet what had happened, and this was looking really, really sad. This white was now not only just white, because of the Vaseline, it had become a shiny white.
Oh no.
Exactly. So I decided I'm going to trust Toko, bring her in on my little secret and say, Toko, please help me. So she helped me. She calmed me down a little bit. My Googling then said mayonnaise. And I said, Toko, get the mayonnaise. So Toko arrived and her and I were rubbing and massaging mayonnaise into this white stain. Nothing.
I can just picture the two of you.
Jo, I would say it was hysterical, except I could feel, I think I was having an anxiety attack because nothing was sorting this out. Google's second suggestion was mix equal parts of oil and vinegar and pour that over the stain.
It's like you're making a salad.
A salad is the only thing I was making. A salad and a big mess, and the stain was looking awful. I literally was at my wit's end. The next method suggested by Google is one that I've seen, and I think this is a remedy for everything and anything. Mix baking soda with a tablespoon of water and make a paste. And I'm sure everybody knows it always tells you make a paste and then leave it there. Leave it there for 4 hours, for 6 hours. And I left it for as long as I possibly could. I think I lasted for about 3.5 hours, and I kept shifting some paste aside to see has it made any difference. The paste and the stain were exactly the same color, and nothing was happening. So I extended my Google search. I must have been on page 4 of Google, finding the same things over and over and panicking more and more till I came across a new method that no one else had mentioned. It seemed a little bit unorthodox to me, or in fact, very unorthodox, but at this point, I would have tried anything. If someone had said, dance on top of your dressing table while smearing Vaseline on the ceiling, I probably would have tried that. I was desperate. And this method described that the reason you got the stain in the first place was not because you spilt some water on your mahogany table. It was because that water was hot. So they said it's heat and steam that caused the problem in the first place. And they said you use the same thing that caused the problem to solve the problem.
Very interesting solution.
So what this method actually entailed was ironing the stain. Take a steam iron and put a little cloth over the stained part and iron over it. As I said, I was desperate. I was going to try anything. I got Toko with me because I think I was way too anxious to do it on my own. And I thought maybe if she irons it, I can blame her if it goes wrong, and said, Toko, please help. So we put a cloth over it and began to iron it. And when we lifted up the cloth, the color was no longer pure white. It was a whitish brown. And we started getting a bit excited, so we repeated it a second time. And the color was getting better and better. By the time we had done it a third time, the mahogany was back.
Wow.
The white stain was gone. It was literally magic. I've never been so excited. I smeared some mayonnaise and oil over that as well, just in case, to make sure it lasted. And the dressing table looked awesome. You could not even tell where this mark had been.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. And most of all, very importantly, George was none the wiser. The dressing table and the whole dressing room looked like mahogany perfection again. As for me, I felt really important. I felt that I had a secret because nobody knows what's on Google beyond page 2. You could probably commit a murder and paste it on a search engine on page 3 or 4, and people wouldn't even know. So I now knew how to fix these white stains.
You're so funny. Now, how does this relate to John and Julia?
Hang on, don't rush me. If you remember, Jo, when we moved into the little apartment in Athens and we didn't have a lot of furniture, a friend of yours had donated a little round entrance table or half moon entrance table.
I do remember that.
And this table was a beautiful looking table, also wooden, and happened to have a few of these stain marks on them, the same rings that glasses cause. And I had said, listen, it's a table that someone's donated to Jo. Either I'm going to fix it or I'm going to ruin it altogether. And then, okay, it doesn't really matter. It wasn't mine to start off with. But you know what? My method worked. I ironed this table, and this time I didn't have Toko to help me. I was doing it myself and doing it with confidence, and this table was restored. It looked beautiful. And as you know, Jo, when I have a method or something that works or something that's going well, I share it. I put it out there. I tell everybody.
Yeah, you don't gatekeep.
I don't gatekeep unless it's people's secrets. But this one, which was on Google page, I don't remember, this one was to be shared. It was like a major discovery. And in the process of sharing, I started getting positive feedback from people. They used my method and they were thrilled to see that it actually worked. Their furniture was being restored. So now we're going to go back to John and Julia.
I'm looking forward to hearing about this once again.
Now, John is half Greek and half English, from a Greek dad and an English mother. And Julia is fully English. And they both lived in the UK for many, many years and then moved to Greece. They have a beautiful home on a Greek island. And because of this, lots of people want to come and visit them, friends and family, and they're very hospitable. They've even created a guest suite because they entertain people so often. They had invited George and me on several occasions, and every single time it happened that I couldn't make it. And George would go on his own and come back and tell me how amazing it was, how much fun they had, how beautiful the home is, and next time I should come. And on the 5th time that they invited us, I finally was able to make it. And everybody was really excited, including me. So we got to their beautiful home. They showed me around. We were having a great time socializing until dinner that evening.
That's very ominous.
Very, very ominous, but it wasn't that bad. They had this beautiful big wooden dining room table, and I was helping carry dishes to the table for dinner that evening. When John mentioned to me that there was a stain in the middle of the table that he found very upsetting. It was actually not a white stain like mine, it was more of a dark stain. It was an oval stain in the middle of the table that had been caused by a serving dish that had been put directly on the wood without using a hot plate or whatever you call that pad or the thing that goes under hot food to keep it away from wood or other vulnerable surfaces. And for anybody that knows me, they'll know that whenever there is a problem, I am Mrs. Solution. I come up for solutions for every problem.
That's true.
I even have solutions for where there are no problems. And I know, Jo, you really appreciate my solutions, except for times where you'll call me up and say, Mom, I'm letting you know in advance, I do not want a solution.
I need to warn her, otherwise I'm just going to get like this onslaught of solutions for every problem that's ever existed in my life.
Exactly. And so obviously, I looked at this table and I immediately came up with a solution. I had the secret weapon that would fix this table. And I told John and Julia that it's late tonight, but tomorrow morning, I am going to fix this table for you. It's a magic solution that I found, and you're not going to believe it, but your table is going to be as good as new. Now, this solution worked for my mahogany dressing table. It worked for the table they had donated to us in Athens. It worked for a friend of mine, and I knew it was tried and tested. It was destined to work. So the next morning, armed with a steam iron and an old cloth, I said to John and Julia, take a good look at the stain. because by the time I'm finished, it will be gone. Your beautiful table will be restored. I can almost guarantee it. I was really excited that I was going to be the solution. Now, everything was going according to plan, and then the unthinkable happened. And when I say unthinkable, I mean unthinkable. I had my cloth and my iron, and I was ironing the center of this huge dining room table. I was ironing where the stain was. And while ironing the stain, out of the corner of my eye, I saw something almost move. And I looked, and there was some white in my peripheral vision. And I turned to look, and this was the edge of the dining room table, which was at least 1.5 meters away from where I was ironing. And I thought, no, this must be wrong. I'm imagining things. I mean, it's not possible that my ironing in the center of the table is affecting something at the far edge of the table. And the whole table gradually turned this cloudy white color.
Oh no, that's so scary, especially because it wasn't yours.
It wasn't mine. I had told them my solution was guaranteed. I had asked them to leave the room so that when they come back, I can surprise them. And the only person that was surprised at the time was me. And I thought, how do I even call them into this room? I stopped the ironing, and this table was completely cloudy. I thought, of the two of them, I'm going to talk to John. He seemed calmer. I don't know if I was right, but I called John in and said, will you please come take a look at this? And John is solution-oriented like I am, and he's also Mr. Fix-It. He can put down floorboards and fix all sorts of things. So I thought, John will explain to me why my solution isn't working and why it's cloudy. So it took him a minute or two to get over the shock. I could see he was shocked. I didn't even know what to say. I didn't know what to do with myself. And he said, white spirit will help. And we kept this away from Julia. We told her there's a slight problem, but things are under control. And John went to his workshop and came back with another cloth and some white spirit. And John being John, he dabbed a tiny bit of the white spirit on the table, and the cloudiness seemed to disappear. And I thought, okay, this is amazing. Not only was the cloudiness disappearing, but the table had this, where John had done it, that tiny little corner, had this amazing sheen to it. And John said, okay, maybe we can do a little bit of white spirit. And I thought, there's no need to do a little bit. This table needs a lot. It's cloudy. I filled my cloth with white spirit, and I rubbed it against the surface of this table. And wherever I rubbed, the table was looking shiny and brand new. This was absolutely awesome.
Thank goodness John's solution was working.
My thoughts exactly, Jo. I was so excited. Looking back, it's also possible that I was high on white spirit fumes because the amount of white spirit I had put in this room was ever so slightly overbearing. But I thought it's worth it. If I have restored this table with John's help, then it's worth the pain and suffering. And I quickly, because I was so excited, called Julia and said, you have to come and look at the table. And Julia came into the room and took a look at this beautiful, shiny-looking table and thought she's going to take a picture of it. And as she picks up her phone, the table starts turning white again from the corner. The spirit was drying, and this white cloudiness was spreading all over the table like some kind of a ghost.
That's so scary.
Scarier than that was seeing Julia's reaction.
I don't know how you did it, because I think I would have wanted the world to swallow me whole in that moment.
I was hoping that too, Jo. I didn't know what to do with myself. All I could do is stand there and apologize repeatedly. I'm so sorry. I'm terribly sorry. This has never happened before. I was rambling on. And Julia, being a nice English woman, politely said, no, Leah, don't worry. This could have happened to anyone. The table did have a stain before, and maybe now it's a good opportunity for us to go and buy some tablecloths. Now, I have learnt that that's English polite talk for what the heck have you done to my table, and I will never invite you to my home ever again.
Oh, my word.
Oh, my word, indeed, Jo. I even tried You know, when you destroy something for someone and you think, well, it doesn't matter what it costs me, I am going to replace this table. And politely asked, where did you get this table from? You can imagine what I felt when she proceeded to tell me that they brought this table from England and they had bought it when their youngest daughter was born. So they had this table, which was a family heirloom in the family for 25 years until Leah came along.
Oh no, oh my word, shame, man.
I felt shocking. Everybody tried to make me feel better because I think they wanted me to just keep quiet. I kept apologizing so much. And eventually, George felt he can't take anymore. He's going to bed. I decided I was going to hang around John and Julia a little bit more so that I could comfort them. And when Julia got up and lit one of her aromatic candles, I thought that things were going well. I didn't realize that the reason why she lit the candle was she could not take the fumes that were coming from the dining room. Even though we had closed the door and opened all the windows, the amount of white spirit I had used was not leaving the room in a hurry. And the only thing that could make matters worse was me causing a fight between John and Julia. Now, I think John was handling the situation a little bit better than Julia because he is like me, Mr. Fix-It, and he and I were already discussing that the next time I go to London, I will go to a particular hardware store that he used to go to, and I'm going to buy him this very thin mesh sponge where he can sand the whole table down, and then he's going to re-varnish it, and he was convinced that this would do the trick. I was starting to feel that there was some hope and that the table would be restored, and I hoped everyone was feeling better until John turned to Julia and said, "Darling, that candle you have lit is giving me a headache."
Very British.
Very British. And Julia replied, "Darling, have you considered the possibility that your head is aching because of the fumes coming from the dining room and not because of my candle?" And John replied, "Darling, this would not be the first occasion that I've used white spirits. I know what makes my head hurt." Now, in the background, I'm listening to all these darlings. I can tell that there aren't terms of endearment at the moment. And the sad thing is that probably Julia was right because John may have worked with white spirit, but he was dabbing it on the edge of a cloth. He wasn't pouring it over the table like I was. And then Julia said, "Well, darling, maybe we should have a cup of tea." I felt shocking. And I could see that all these darlings and these cups of tea did not mean that this argument was over. In fact, it meant we're pausing this for now because Leah is here, but this discussion will continue. And I got the sense. I have understood subsequently that when British people become super polite, that's when you should be worried. I've also recently discovered that when there are two darlings in a sentence, or when the word darling is drawn out as darling, that almost means that they're ready to call a divorce lawyer. Very different to how Greek people fight, because Greek people get it out there. They scream and shout and perform. And so these polite darlings had me completely freaked out. I bid everyone good night and hoped that they would both be alive the next morning so I could apologize further. Eventually, George and I left the island. I think John and Julia were very grateful to see the back of me and were also probably grateful that I hadn't made it the first 5 times they had invited me.
But your impact was limited.
There you go. My impact was limited to this one visit. But the story does have a happy ending. What happened is before I had a chance to go and buy the wire mesh in London that I promised John, John started looking up solutions. And he tried all sorts of things. I think he went through a similar process to my mayonnaise and salad dressing. And probably on his search page, I don't know what, of Google, he found a little YouTube video that said, if you're all out of options, try acetone. You have nothing to lose. Now, I'm putting it out there. Do not try this at home. Acetone on wood isn't a good solution, except on this wood. This ghost wood John started using acetone, annoyed Julia again, a couple of darlings, because he took her nail polish remover before he went out and bought more acetone. So he finished all her nail polish remover, but everywhere that he wiped, the table got its shine back.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? And the shine persisted. It's actually still there. And the table looked better and shinier than what it had done before he started doing this. And John came to me and thanked me and said, listen, in a way, Leah, you have helped, because all these years that we've had this table with this mark on it, we've been so scared that something we would do would damage the table and we weren't prepared to try anything. But he said, once you messed up the whole table, we no longer had anything to lose. And finally, this solution worked.
I don't even know. Can you take that as a compliment?
I took it as a compliment. In fact, I'd like to take the credit for their dining room table looking awesome the way it currently does. I might share a tiny bit with John. On the other hand, Julia, who appears to have forgiven me, did post on my Facebook when she wished me happy birthday, said all these lovely things about me and said, I'm an amazing mom and friend. However, my furniture restoring abilities leave a lot to be desired. So I don't think Julia has
fully gotten over it.
Exactly. Sorry, Julia.
And on that note, I think it's a good time to talk about the lessons that we can learn from the story.
Lesson number 1, leave other people's furniture alone. Another lesson would be there is no one-size-fits-all solution. And remember that pages 3 and 4 on your Google search are a double-edged sword.
And I think another lesson could be that if at first you don't succeed, try and try again and don't give up.
That's a good one, Jo. Thanks, John.
And now we should be talking about what we're grateful for this week.
Well, firstly, especially since we went out for dinner last night, I'm really grateful that John and Julia still talk to me and want to associate with me. I'm grateful that their marriage survived the darling phase.
I'm grateful that all these various tables were finally restored.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm grateful for that too. And finally, I would say I'm grateful for unorthodox solutions that work.
Me too. And on that note, thanks for another fun episode.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Join us again next week for another story. And make sure to subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube if you haven't already. And also follow us on Facebook and Instagram for any updates. Thanks again. We appreciate all your support.
We really do.
Bye.
Bye.